So welcome to the delicious recap. Today I am Manny. Is it Bassanese?
Yeah, sounds like some interesting pasta, right? Manny Bolognese. I have no. So Manny is the writer of the episode, isn't?
Yes, Manny is the writer of this episode. And that is who I'm gonna be today because Manny, you are a star.
I I mean, I don't think I'm gonna spoil too much. I love this episode. I'm gonna give this episode a favorable rating. This was a good one for me.
I will go with you there. This was a good episode. A lot of relatable things happened, so I'm very happy that we got this episode.
Yes. Delicious. That's who we're talking to right now. You listening. I think last recap we referred to our delicious recap listeners as delicious. So hello and welcome to our sanctuary.
Yes, welcome inside. It's a very warm and comfortable place.
There you go. All right, what episode are we talking about?
Today, the episode we're talking about, oh my God, I didn't write the episode title in my.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for. Season 2, episode 5, The Crash Course. I have original air date and all that crap if you want it.
Yes, let's talk about the original air date and Hulu synopsis, please.
Sure. October 12th, 1990 is the original air date, written by Manny Bassanese. Either way, I want to take a trip to Italy just by hearing that last name. So thank you, Manny, for that. Directed by the late Gary Mentier. And I almost thought that we had no guest stars, but no, we have only one guest star this episode. Bridget Coulter comes back as Jolene. And I did tell you that she's married to Don Cheadle, right?
No.
I thought I told you that via text. Yeah, first, apparently, uh, Bridget and Don, they were together for like 28 years before they tied the knot back in 2020. Yeah, they're together.
Oh my God, come on the show. We need to talk about you being Jolene. So now I want to know even more. Like, I just want to know you.
Yeah, and if you could find her contact info more easily than I can, then please by all means, because she's kind of like it's weird because she like whoever played Margie in that candidate episode from last season, they're hard to get direct contact info for, but their husbands are pretty famous people that you could easily contact. You know, like Don Cheadle. Okay, yeah, I know Don Cheadle's not coming on the show because he's Don Cheadle, but yeah, Bridget Coulter. It's like, oh, where's your phone number? Where's your email? Do you even want to be contacted about family matters? So Bridget, we're sending out the call to you because I never remembered Eddie having a so far regular girlfriend like this. Do you?
No, I don't. And John, did you cut your hair too?
No.
It just kind of looks like it from here. I was like, what? But
So I
so
will say this: for some
yeah.
reason, when my hair grows a little bit and I shave here, a lot of people think I have a haircut. The difference between like the shaved face and the growing spikes of hair, that seems to produce something in people that think like, oh, hey, you did a shape up or whatever. Nope. My hair just looks different when I have a shaved face. That's all it is. No.
Jelly, you have a naturally well-looking hairline.
Oh, you're too kind. It always looks ugly when I look at it in the mirror, but for whatever reason, from a distance, when people look at it, it looks spectacular. So thank you for the kind words. I should commend you because unlike me, you can actually do your haircuts like a professional. Me, I have to get my wife to spend 10, 15 minutes against her will to do my hair.
The forcing of cutting hair. That is forced grooming, John.
Yeah, yeah. Like, oh God, baby, I just want to take a nap. No, I need to look good for door dashing.
Okay, you know what? It's contributing to the business, and I am okay with that.
There you go. There you go. Whatever makes money in the household. But anyway, we get to our Hulu synopsis for this episode. Steve Urkel is facing a future in military school when, to win Eddie Winslow's friendship, he falsely confesses to crashing the Winslow family car. And my God, what a crash that was. We'll get to that when we get to that.
We will. I've never critiqued a Hulu synopsis. That one was terrible.
They're all, I mean, like, because again, it just kind of spoils it from the outright, right? Like it just gives you little reason to watch the episode. It's giving you everything there.
Yeah, but in the synopsis, it makes Steve sound a little more manipulative than I put him as in the episode. Jeez.
I mean, he is manipulative in most ways, but yes, you're right. I mean, it's not like he asked for uh Eddie to crash the car. Yeah. Steve takes the fall twice in this synopsis and via taking the fall for Eddie.
Or Steve. This wasn't his episode, but it was good.
Yes. Hey, I mean, now, we always do the rating system throughout our recaps. Can you just remind anybody who doesn't know what it is, how it works?
Yes. So as we go through the episode, you're going to hear us use some terms. We're going to use our appetizer, our main course, or entree, your dessert, or your junk food. Those are just staple points in the episode we're going to talk about that stuck out for us for the reasons we'll explain as we get to them. When it comes to our rating system, we are using our delicious star system. So there's 0 to 3 stars. 0 is the lowest, 3 is the highest. And we're looking at the quality of our product, which is our episode, our mastery and delivery of the lines and the emotions that are in each scene, the personality and the vibe of the cast, and what the producer took to build that, the value of the time of watching this, and do we have any common grounds? Like, did you and I relate to something about this episode? And if you related with us, send us a message so that way we can know what you related about this episode.
Yeah, the delicious recap at gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. All right, take it away. You want to start with the cold open?
Yes, we're starting with the cold open, which funny enough, I ate very spicy food, so my mouth is on fire. That's why I keep drinking water. But
milk is better. Milk is better.
I will not put cow juice near my face.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, you're vegan and it's gonna like make your ass explode even more than it did earlier today from whatever you ate over the weekend.
Which now I feel amazing and 42 pounds lighter. So thank you, sickness.
Yes. For anybody who wants to lose weight, just eat foods that you're not supposed to eat, and boom, your ass is gonna take care of it for you.
It is not FDA approved.
It's not. It's well, you know what? FDA, if by FDA, Francois dot association approved, that is something that I'll certify.
Okay, I'll take it. I like it. Because it leads us to our appetizer here, which is FDA certified for me.
Yeah.
The cold open. This is the first cold open in a very long set of cold openings that I loved. What did you think about this cold opening?
I thought it was okay. I thought that, well, first of all, I noticed that there was a slight variation of the transitional music that we used in our season 1 recaps to open the cold open. So that was something. I did automatically wonder what the heck Harriet and Rachel were doing painting the entire living room. I felt like, especially with Rachel, maybe that's not a job that should be completely trustworthy to them. I did find it interesting that Harriet and Rachel, like, they ended up fencing with their paintbrushes, and it was Carl who stepped in as the mature adult. Carl, the one who does very badly and clumsily with the house projects, who was like, oh, stop it. Y'all are acting like children here. And then, yeah, I think he eventually like offers a truce to them, and he doesn't want any paint on his uniform, even though he has paint smeared on his face already. And then, yeah, we get Urkel, who comes in and he's just like, hi, I'm just coming in to bother you, Winslow's, as usual. And he just ends up putting paint on Carl's back just before or just after Carl is like, oh, that's okay. At least I don't get paint on my uniform. Steve always with those well-timed clumsy parts. So it was a concise opening that reminded me of the cold open from last season where the adults were playing video games. I think every now and then we're gonna get adults becoming kids in a cold open, which is nice. I mean, I think even as you get older, you should be able to have that childlike joy. So I think it was okay. I mean, I could have taken it or leaving it or left it, but I thought it was okay. What are your thoughts on this cold open?
This is my favorite cold opening that we've ever had. I love the paint scene. Like, I don't know about you. I love making mess. So making a mess with paint and fighting with paint would be a fun thing for me and my brother to do. So this kind of brought me back to like a little childhood memory. And I loved Carl's reaction when he came in because I'm like, ooh, I'm waiting for Carl to pick up a whole bucket of paint and pour it on somebody, but he didn't. But it was still really good.
So I could see Carl, Rachel, and maybe even Urkel getting in on a paint mess fight. I think where I got a little bit thrown off was the fact that Harriet was into the whole paint fighting of it all. Because I've always imagined Harriet to be sort of that persnickety black mom that's like that she wants everything to be as clean and polished as possible in the household, no chaos like that. Um, Oh, yeah, case in point, the lemon cream tart episode from last season, the Baker's Dozen episode, where, Carl, Rachel, the family, they're just going ape shit over like, throwing food at each other, and Harriet had to be the one to scream, "Stop! Y'all are just going crazy! Stop it!" Blah, blah. So the fact that Harriet is becoming a child, just giving into childlike joy in this paint fence thing in the cold open, it's different for me.
I I found that to be comforting in this.
Mm.
Like for this cold opening, and the reason why I like it so much is because while I was watching it, I was writing in my notes. I think the cold opens are a chance for the main acting cast to do something different than what they would normally do in the show.
Okay.
Like it's kind of like you get like this like scripted, unscripted moment
Mm.
where it's like, okay, Harriet would normally stay super clean, but now we've got her getting dirty and she's the one starting the fight with the paint. Or like we got our first set of physical humor moments from Laura in a cold open as
Mm.
opposed to the main show. So I'm like, maybe it's like a way of them testing out certain things that they want to build with the characters.
Sure. Yeah. They want to experiment. They don't want to like pigeonhole characters into certain tropes. I could see that.
But yeah, the only person they don't do that for is Carl, because Carl's kind of just Carl no matter what.
Carl, with your, stubbornness about doing house projects that you could not do. Carl, with your donuts. Carl this, Carl that.
The funny thing you bring that up, Carl not being able to complete a house project, this painting of the living room, I don't know if you noticed the setup. They only had half of the living room covered in plastic, and it was all painted this weird beige color. So I don't know why no one stopped Harriet from doing this, because I feel like she started this project.
Yeah, yeah. I think that maybe the paint fencing was a subconscious way of saying, don't know what we're doing here. Let's let's distract ourselves with a little paint fight.
I mean, it was still good for me. Scene one for me, I'm just gonna jump right in. That was my main course.
Yeah. So, how so? What did you like about it?
So scene one, we've got Eddie super excited about getting his driver's license. Carl is down in the kitchen. He's making breakfast for himself, or he's having breakfast. I think like cereal or something. And go ahead.
No, 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 no. I was just thinking of the sarcastic response that Carl gave to Eddie, because Eddie was coming downstairs. He's like, "Dad, what are you doing?" And even before Carl said something, I was like, "Eddie, I think he's eating." But Carl's response was, "Well, Edward, it is a tradition in the Winslow household. We call it breakfast. Like you take somebody in a robe in the morning and they're eating something out of a bowl. It's probably breakfast." So when you had mentioned that moment in the beginning, that was amusing to me.
It was a dad moment. This is what I love about this scene. Carl gives us full dad energy. I think better than he has or what we've seen in the show so far. Because my dad would do this in the morning.
Like, what do you mean? Just like do the robe and the breakfast vibe, just that whole dad thing?
He would literally do like, hey, I know you're ready to go somewhere. Like Eddie, he's like, hey, we've got to get up and go. And no matter what's happening, my dad's like, oh, you want to rush now? You're on my time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the dad is older. He has not as much anxious energy to do things as the son. He's more relaxed, more chill in his older age. So I get where Carl's coming from. However, there's a bit of a twist to that as we get rolling into this scene as we go along. Now, a fashion note for Eddie, I think that the jean jacket look is going to be totally his thing. I loved how, I mean, not only the jean jacket, the jean outfit in general, like he's having the blue denim jeans, he has the orange shirt, he has the jean jacket, held by his arms. He's just ready to go full, I'm going to say Kevin Bacon.
I can give that a Kevin Bacon. That jacket, I want it. If
Yeah.
anybody knows where I can purchase that, tell me because I want it.
I'm gonna say that's my junk food because I hated the shoulder pads on that jacket so much. I really did. It was like some Bobby Brown wannabe shoulder pads. I hated it. if the shoulder pads weren't there, I think it would be okay. But the shoulder pads were just so big and distracting. It was just a turn off for me. And you know what? As I was writing that on my notes, I had a feeling that you would like that.
Because the shoulder pads make it. Like with the shoulder pads, it's giving you early 90s, very late 80s. Without the shoulder pads, it would give me New York Taxi Driver or grunge. So I love that like lineage. That damn jacket, I want it. That is my dessert for this episode. That jacket is beautiful.
I mean, it might be on eBay somewhere. You never know. Um, so you had mentioned earlier about like, Eddie is trying to anxiously get the driver's license. He's trying to get Carl to take him to the DMV ASAP. There was one line in that exchange that really got to me. Eddie was like, "Oh, Dad, I've got to get my license by the end of today, or else I'll get picked up by the Geek Patrol." And that brought about an image of my head of a bunch of nerds in school dressing up in police uniforms and coming by like to kidnap Eddie in a police car and have their way with him. Like is that just a common saying that was said in high school? Like I'm gonna be picked up by the Geek Patrol as a way to say that I'm gonna be like an uncool person if I don't have my driver's license now?
I think so.
Okay.
The Geek Patrol, the only thing I could relate that to was getting picked up by your family with the kids in the car.
Oh, yeah, that too. That too. The family is gonna be uncool, if they pick you up in the minivan.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was torture for kids in school.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and did you also notice that the way Eddie was talking about his license, it was just like he all he had to do was just take a stroll around in a car, and if he does okay with that with Carl, then he just goes straight to the license. There was no talk of a permit. So I looked up on Bing just out of curiosity, like, did you have to get a permit before you got your license? Because I think that's still a thing in my home state of Connecticut. I think it's a thing here in my current state of Vermont. In fact, in 1990, Chicago did not have a specific law saying that you had to get a permit before you got a license. So, I mean, from your personal experience, did you go straight to a license or did you have to get a permit first?
I had to get a permit. I had
Yeah.
to get a permit. So I actually had the same question. Like, how did he just jump to this? Was it just like, oh, I just woke up and I just want to go get my license one day? But then they talk about the driving test being something he's ready for. So I'm like, did he already practice? Like, I feel like we didn't get like any information there.
Yeah, I mean, it apparently 1990 driving license qualifications were a lot more lenient because Eddie makes it seems like you just get in the car, take a spin around the parking lot or around the road for a bit, and if you do well, then you get your license. But nowadays, you gotta like take a written test to get your permit. You get the permit, and then you gotta take another written test for the license. Maybe you take like 4 hours of driving school. I mean, there's a lot that goes on now.
There is. Like, when I was watching it, I'm like, I wish that it was this easy when I got my license.
It would have been great. It would have been great.
You know
No,
what
I think
was funny though? I don't
yeah.
think seatbelt laws were a thing back then, so licenses were probably not the biggest thing on the list.
Or I'm sure they weren't. I mean, me and my wife were talking the other day, like, I mean, just going back to the 80s. I mean, forget about the seatbelt thing, drunk driving. I mean, my therapist told me that there were many times she was able to drive drunk, get stopped by a cop, and they're like, "Oh, okay, like, be careful on your way home." like, oh, do you have a friend with you in the car? All right, can you guys switch? Like, yeah, my mother-in-law, like she got away with that shit back in the day. So yeah, I mean, as the years have gone by, and I guess as accidents have risen, we've just become thankfully more uptight about how to drive out there.
Yeah, keep a seatbelt on, people, and make sure you follow the permit and all the testing because it's worth it.
And maybe be sober, like when you're going in for your driving test. That might be a good idea too.
Be sober whenever you're behind the wheel if you are able to medically be sober. I hope I said that correctly.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, for you old people who need your medical marijuana to keep your body at bay, we're looking out for you.
Yes, yes. If you can, stay home. Let us DoorDash to you.
My
So,
last point about scene one, I to go back to like the twist that I was talking about. Turns out that Carl was not in a robe and nothing underneath for for the whole day. Sorry, that brought about a disturbing image in my head. I don't want to think about Carl being naked underneath the robe, but whatever. I put it out there. Anyway, so Carl surprises Eddie. Like Carl makes Eddie initially think that he's just in a robe sitting around, not really caring about the DMV test. But then Carl takes off his robe and it reveals, oh, he has his going out clothes. He's ready to go. He's tricked Edward. Let's go. Let's get the license.
He's ready. John, who taught you how to drive?
My dad.
Was your dad as excited as Carl was learning to teach you how to drive?
Yeah.
It was kind of like that.
I mean, nah. I wouldn't say excited. He had that, okay, I'm the dad. I'm because of some stereotype, I'm the more perfect driver in the family. I'm the one with no record of tickets. I'm the one that always has the perfect speed limit. So therefore, I have the responsibility of teaching my children how to drive. It wasn't the most fun because learning driving from a dad like that can be very nerve-wracking. So I would say for him, he felt like it was a more straightforward, dutiful responsibility rather than like, yeah, let's get on the road, son. How about your dad?
My dad was just like Carl Winslow. He was
Nice.
super excited. He was like, they teach how to until we got behind the wheel of the car because I learned how to drive on a stick shift and we almost crashed. And then my dad's excitement kind of faded, but it wouldn't have been serious. We wouldn't have died. Nobody would have got hurt. But
nothing like a dad's reaction to when your driving is fucked up. They'll let you know. They'll let you know that you fucked up.
that's the funny thing. He's like, he'll let me know, like, I messed up and everything. And it was a fun experience because he was like Carl. So this scene for me, Carl gave the perfect dad energy. It was like he's excited, he's giddy, and at the same time, he's getting back at his kid for wasting his time.
Yeah. But I did think that transition was strange. I did not expect him to have those clothes underneath. I think the way that they handled that was to me, it just felt like suddenly erupt, like I didn't know how to deal with it. Yeah, it was a strange thing. But at the same time, yet I saw that they were trying to make a joke there. That probably doesn't make sense, but you get what I mean, right?
I get what you mean. It was not a RuPaul Drag Race level reveal that we got. It was more kind of like, oh, this haphazardly was turned into a joke, which I feel like someone just at the last moment was like, what'll really be funny is this. Scene 2 is once we get to Carl and Eddie driving.
Yes, they're out on the road. I'm not really in love with this green screen effect that they use when they're out there. I felt like it was very gray and grainy.
It did look very unrealistic.
Yeah. I mean, it's 1990 green screen effects, so I guess that's what you expect.
That's what I expected, but I felt like the actual green screen wasn't as noticeable to me because of the connection Eddie and Carl have in the car when they're driving.
Okay, tell me more.
So I just loved it where Carl's like, Eddie, I'm not your dad. I'm driving instructor. And he's like, here's the points that you're going to lose for everything you do bad. Now, my dad did not do this of like shouting at us while we're driving or like putting these random scenarios in, but I can see where Carl was going.
Yeah, I know he was coming from a good place and not letting Eddie be this sort of complacent braggadocio teenage driver that thinks that he's got it and nothing bad can happen to him. I know that Carl was coming from that good place. I thought the way he handled it, though, wasn't great. I thought that, like, for example, when he pretended to Eddie that, like, oh, there's a bread truck, stop, hit your brakes. I thought that was rather irresponsible because, one, not good to slam your brakes that hard unless you absolutely need to. And two, with that sudden stop, Eddie could have caused an accident from the car behind him, the car in front of him. I thought there could have been a better way for Carl to give Eddie a nice dose of reality that driving is no joke. The way he did that bread truck thing was not, it didn't sit well with me. It's actually my appetizer. And not all appetizers are tasty, Andrew. Some appetizers can come in the form of bitter mayonnaise fish.
Whoa, oh my God. I
I
just
know.
imagine that smells like death, like just death in a jar.
I want you to shit your pants again. That's what I'm here for.
I would do more than shit my pants. I would probably shit out my spine.
Oh, Oh no, we don't want shit spine. Sounds like a name you'd be bullied at back at school. Hey, shit spine boy, come over here.
You remember you dropped a shit in the gym? That's what they're gonna call you. Ah,
Shit spine boy, drop a shit in the gym. Anyway, that's a song. But yeah, that was my appetizer. I'm gonna argue that even though Eddie was a little bit braggadocio, it's I don't know. I felt like it would have been better for him to go into the driving test with the braggadocio confidence that he had, rather than like, holy crap, like my dad is making me think that I'm gonna hit a bread truck like every 2 seconds, and now I'm on edge. Like, yeah, being nervous can have its value. Yes, it can make you more alert, more attentive, but from my experience, having to take the driving test 3 times before I passed it, it could also cause you to overthink to the point of it working against you. Like, you just think that if you uh, stop at a red light longer than you need to, or if you stop at a stop sign until like every last car has gone through the opposite intersections, like you just make it a lot worse for yourself. You think that driving 20 in a 65 is good because you're driving slow, not fast. I mean, so I think it worked out worse for Eddie by Carl making a panic like that.
I can 100% agree with you. I don't think this is an effective way to teach anybody anything. You're just causing trauma. And then on top of that, you're triggering it when you shout in the car 'cause you're scaring the crap out of your child.
Yeah.
So I completely agree. I wouldn't do this. Driving is something that I love doing. So for me, watching somebody else drive is terrifying. Like Eddie taking his eyes off the road completely, even though they're just fake driving. That would terrify me to be in the car. Everything in this scene kind of was like junk food for me because it didn't provide to Eddie's learning. But I did like the way it's written. It's written so we see Carl over stimulating the situation. We see Eddie building a nervousness, and the scene kind of ends with us out actually getting like a comforting feeling. Like it's just like, oh, I just feel nervous. What the hell did we just watch?
On edge.
You're on edge.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it certainly sets us up for what happens in the next scene. But my last point about this scene, actually no, not the next scene. I think in two scenes. Scene four is when we get like the big disaster climax scene. But my last point about this scene with Carl and Eddie doing the test drive together, I'm again learning new phrases, new terms via Family Matters. I had no idea what hanging the Ralph was until Eddie mentioned it. You know, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing everything that I'm doing, Dad. I'm braking when I need to. I'm hanging the Ralph." And I was like, "What, hanging the Ralph? What is that? Like putting your penis by a fire and letting it warm up for tomorrow morning? I don't know what that means." But
Gee.
anyway, I learned that that actually means like it's making a right turn while driving. It's a slang term for making a right turn while driving. Have you ever used that term?
No, I'm not 75.
Right? Apparently Eddie is though.
Yeah, that I heard him say it and I couldn't understand what he was saying, so I rewound it almost 40 times.
Oh,
And then when I heard it, I was like, hanging the Ralph. And I'm like, what? And
yeah.
thank you for explaining it.
Yeah, yeah. Google or Bing, any search internet thing is your best friend. Anytime you're confused, just do what I do. Just look it up and it'll make it a lot more sense.
This makes sense now watching it, but that looked like the most complicated turn I've ever seen somebody do. I've never turned like that in my life. So it was an interesting setup to it.
That's a gangsta turn. That's what we call the gangsta turn. You know how the gangsters from Compton roll up with the Cadillacs and they just like, really use the full force of their arm and shoulder to turn onto a corner. Yeah. I think the more aggressive and pronounced your turn is, the more unnecessarily complicated you're making things for yourself because you just want to show off.
Yes, but I do big turns like that when I'm delivering an order and it's tipped very well. If it's over $40, I'm doing a gangster turn into your neighborhood.
Because it's a feel good turn. It's like, yo, watch me pull up to this customer's joint with a $40 tip in hand. I'm Andrew in this motherfucking piece.
You nailed it. You nailed it perfectly. Um, I didn't have anything else for the senior.
Me neither. I'm good to go for scene three, which I believe takes place in the garage.
It does. It takes place in the garage. We get Eddie and Laura, this is after Eddie's road test. Which, John, did you say that you failed your road test 3 times?
Yeah, before I got my license, I think I had to take it 3 times. Yeah.
We are 3 timers. I had to do the same thing. I don't know
Yeah.
if I told you that.
Third time's the charm. That's what they say. Oh, God. Yeah. And then I had to go through the process all over again when my state of Iowa license was suspended unbeknownst to me. And I had to get a state of Vermont license. I had to go through the process all over again. I think I failed it only once before acing it the second time. So I had to go through it 2 times the second time around. So needless to say, I am not the greatest driver when I'm put under pressure. It's interesting. Like I'm very nervous and very awful when I'm put under pressure, but when I have my license, I just revert to the most complacent, anxious, worst, speedy driver ever. I am not fitting for the road.
Okay, I have just felt seen. When other people are in the car with me, I'm like you. Like I drive very safely, but I'm just like, oh, I feel nervous with you people in here.
Yeah.
Especially like the instructor during the road test. I was like, do you have to breathe? Like, can you just sit there? Like, I don't want to know you're here.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, my first instructor was very terrifying. He was just your, stoic uh police officer, ultra serious guy. And I remember when I failed that first time and I almost broke down in tears in front of him. And he was just like, okay, all right, you do that. Let me go on to the next person. Like and understandably, they have no patience for this. They deal with a lot of failures all the time. So lots to be learned. Lots to be learned when you're driving at a very young and tender teenage age.
The funny thing is, I was in my 20s.
All right. Hey, I mean, everybody starts differently. Everybody gets their license at a different age, and the point is that you eventually get it, and you have still several hundred more decades to enjoy it.
Yes, we just get to enjoy it, unlike Eddie, because Eddie has to admit he did not pass his test here.
Yeah, so I think the scene starts off with Laura pumping her bike, and she greets Eddie with "Oh, there he is, Eddie Andretti." Again, I have no idea what the fuck this show is talking about, so I look it up. It refers to the racing car driver Mario Andretti. Now, you know who that was?
I know who Mario Andretti is, one, because of Miss Cardi B. She's in one of her lyrics. And then on top of that, I just know Formula One racing, and I've seen him. I think you did Formula One.
Yeah. Wow. All right. I am surprised that you both know Mario Andretti and that Cardi B somehow found a way to fit it into her song.
Yes, she did. I don't even remember what the song was. Oh, when I figure it out, I will definitely post it with this, but I don't remember what the song is, but I feel like it's the one with Nicki Minaj.
Was it called Mario WAP? Mario Wet Ass Pussy?
Oh my God, that sounds terrible. That sounds like,
Mario Andretti's Wet Ass Pussy. That's an image for you.
but he was cute, so it probably isn't bad.
Okay. He was cute, so if he had a wet ass pussy, it would be the most cutest wet ass pussy ever.
You'd be like, well, okay, I see that man.
Yeah, the wet it would be the wet sweat from all the race car driving that he's done. That's probably what it's wet for.
That could be interesting. You never know. Sometimes things smell better than they are described as.
I guess. Oh my God. So anyway, I mean, first thing in this scene in the garage, I am just shouting at Carl because I'm like, God damn it, Eddie is just this depressed fella, you know? I mean, you know how the feeling is when you're a teenager and you want that driver's license, you want that first stroke of independence, and you don't get it. Your dad is largely to blame for it because he just put you under that unnecessary nervousness. Um, I was confused about a line in this scene. Do you understand it when Eddie said the driving test examiner could not handle his nerves and made Eddie let him out and sent the bus back? I couldn't understand that because I was like, wait a minute, is the bus the driving test vehicle? Did the instructor demand Eddie take the bus home? Did the instructor himself take the bus home? I don't get it.
So I assumed with that line, the instructor got out of the car and took the bus home.
Why would he let an unlicensed teenager drive the car back to the DMV by himself? Like what?
I get the feeling I get the feeling the instructor was like, "You're unsafe no matter if I'm in this car or not, so I'm just gonna remove myself."
Wow. All right. So he's gonna just risk the life of a teenager just because he just could not take it anymore. All right. I mean, I guess I understand, but also, damn, that life is gonna be on you.
Yep, it's gonna be on you. I mean, this lets me know that this driver test might have been horrendous. But what I did like in this scene is Eddie did not place the blame on himself, and he didn't need to. So I do like that we got that explanation with Laura of Dad made me nervous.
Yeah. And this was the one time that I agree with Eddie putting the blame on his dad. If you remember last season, you and I were in difference about Eddie, blaming Carl for what I thought were stupid reasons, like, oh, I threw the football out the window or I broke the window with the football. You bought me the football, Dad, so that's your fault. In this case, we saw firsthand that Carl unnecessarily made Eddie nervous. So yeah, Carl did play a part. What did you think about Jolene entering in this scene? Because I think, and she's my junk food. I have this theory that the writers don't really know what to do with Jolene because if I last remember, I think we were introduced to her as this angry gal who thought that Eddie was looking at other girls, cheating on her. She breaks up with him, and then now they're back together with no explanation as to how they got back together. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean, I guess they're just an on and off high school couple.
Yes, Eddie and Jolene gave me a high school couple that's always breaking up, and all their friends are like, "Oh my God, girl, just leave him alone." And his friends are like, "Would you just go play football?" And neither of them are listening because they keep coming back together.
Yeah. Have you been in a relationship like that back in high school?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You say that with such regret.
Tons of regret where I wasted tons of my fun time dealing with something like this. So I can see this moment where I'm like, okay, I get it. They're on and off. But like you, I'm like, felt a little clunky. Like, I want to get to know Jolene at this point because y'all brought her back twice. Give her a little bit more than this.
Yeah, give her a little bit more color than just like, oh, that's the on and off relationship girl. I did find it funny their pet nicknames for each other. I thought that when let's see, uh, so this is the point where Eddie could not bring himself to honestly tell Jolene that he passed the test because he wants to impress her. Jolene clearly wants to, ride around with a licensed boyfriend, and so he says he passed, or no, he didn't really say he passed. He just was kind of like hesitating and nervous, and and Jolene just jumps to conclusions and was just like, "Oh, congratulations, Binky Bear." And then Eddie had to make it better, like, "Oh, thanks, Winky Bear."
I loved how Eddie said, "What do you think?" And then that's when she's like, "Oh, you got your license." He is the best at dodging an answer to a question. He needs to train politicians today.
No, yeah, yeah. Eddie, well, you know what? The way he dodged that answer, that's what made him a perfect politician last episode. Or not last episode, last season. So yeah, there's a valid point there. What the hell did Laura have on her shirt? I think it was. At first, I thought it was Christmas gifts and Christmas lights and Christmas candy, but I think it was flowery patterns.
Okay, so Laura's outfit was so ugly. I just, I'm not even gonna like sugarcoat it. It was so ugly that I think I selectively edited it out of my memory because I don't remember it. I remember that there was red and hideousness on that shirt, and I don't know what they dressed her in.
Yeah, I think when I took a second look at another scene, it was like a flowery pattern. It is classic Laura chaoticness via fashion. Um, Jolene comes off a little bit mood swingy in this episode, in this scene. Because like she goes from like, oh, Pinky Bear, you got your license to Eddie, you're stalling, give me a ride now.
That's high school girlfriend. She's the head cheerleader. That's exactly what they would do and get angry, but she knew what she was doing. She did expert peer pressure to get him out the house and get in the car.
Oh,
She
that's a if that's a high school girlfriend, then I'm certainly glad I'm not in high school anymore.
Well, see, now this I have to ask you, have you ever done anything like this where you let somebody encourage you to like take the family car or do something major where you're like, damn, I should not have done this?
No, I was not at that cool level at all in high school. I mean, I got my permit senior year of high school, and I did not get my license until the summer before my sophomore year in college. So high school to me was just, I'm like the shy, awkward kid who is active in the theater department. And yeah, no, we would if you know anything about theater kids in high school, we are anything but daring. We're just like, "Eh, let's do Shakespeare and if and let's go out on the occasional field trip to New York where we're all gonna go swimming together in a pool when we're not seeing plays."
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, I mean, I was the shy guy that didn't want to hang out with people. I was just, I saved my energy for the stage. I was so fucking pretentious in high school. It was stupid. No, seriously, I was like that. I was like that classic Joaquin Phoenix like recluse. It was like, yeah, I hated myself back in high school. Anyway, but no, to answer your question, I did not do anything daring. Um, I mean, the closest, a girl gave me hickeys, and my mom was just like, "What the fuck is that on your neck?" when I came home to it. That's all I can say. That's all I can say.
You
What about
were,
you?
you were, I did. I took the car. I was terrible and I crashed it. Um, so I was that kid who was always getting in trouble, but because I'm the baby of the family, I always got out of the trouble.
Mm,
So yes, this is relatable to me. I let peer pressure take over and I decided to take the car, which I'm done with this scene because this kind of leads me into the next one.
okay, okay. I think I mean, the last couple points I had about this scene is I felt that Laura gave Eddie a really hard slap on the back when, she just put together like the fact that like Eddie lied to Jolene. Like I heard it. Like it was almost like a sound effect was produced for that slap on the back.
Laura was a genius, and I hope she really did knock some sense into him because it did look very believable. So I thought she actually hit him.
Yeah, it was bordering on abusive, if I should say, sibling domestic violence. Um, and lastly, as Eddie backs the car out of the garage, he takes that chance to take Jolene out for an unlicensed spin. It gave me Rachel car crash vibes because I think that's how Rachel did it in the Carl car parade episode from last season. She backed it out slowly, and you're kind of waiting for something bad to happen, but that something bad that happens next scene.
It always happens in the next scene, and they are just not good drivers in this family because we get Eddie crashing through the front of the house in this next scene.
How?
A little bit before that.
How? How did he like that's the first thing that happened in my head. I was like, well, first of all, before we get to that moment, I think I mean, don't we open with like Steve following Laura around the living room like, "Oh, Laura, please, can I have a lock of your hair to save?" And when Laura says no, he's like, "Hey, can I have your toenail clippings?"
That is the creepiest thing.
I literally in my head I was like, Steve, what kind of voodoo shit are you creating in your house when you get home? Like Laura's toenail clippings?
Do
Ew.
you remember Hey Arnold?
I do remember Hey Arnold, yeah.
He was building a shrine of Laura like Helga was building a shrine of Arnold.
I forgot. Yeah, Helga did have a really weird obsession with Arnold. When she wasn't being fucking mean to him. Helga was like the reverse Laura.
Yes, that is a perfect analogy. She was the reverse Laura. Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. That's God, Helga was something else. And I mean, just when I thought that Rachel backing the car from Carl's Parade into the street was bad, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. How, unless you are absolutely stupid Pete Davidson drunk, like, how do you drive a car through a fucking living room? I just don't get it. Like, where, like, is there anything about the Winslow house, the Winslow front part, that resembles a road? Like, what?
I don't get it because I'm like you. Now, if we're going off the layout of the house, when Rachel crashed the police car, the driveway is off to the side of the house. So that would mean Eddie would have to come out the driveway into the street and then purposely drive towards the house and crash through the front of it because the garage isn't attached to the house. So I'm like, how did this happen?
I don't know. My only guess is that because you don't go through the written test, the permit, blah, 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 because you can just hop in the car one day and then just get your license the next, maybe all Eddie knew was the toy race car choo 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 driving that he had from his childhood, where you could, playfully run a car through a Barbie dream house, and that was it. Maybe that's the education that he has. I just could not understand because this was too much even for dumb Eddie.
It- that I'm just trying to like give Eddie a little bit of grace, but I'm with you. How did we get here, Eddie? But okay, side note, if you don't watch it, there's a show called Road Wars that you can watch. It's all about bad driving and road rage. And people drive through the front of buildings a lot more often than I thought they did.
I mean, for stupid thrills, fine, but if you think that like, oh, this is how I get from Wisconsin to Montana by driving through someone's house, that's a different story.
Well, maybe this is my only last thing I could give Eddie on. Maybe he confused the pedals, but I don't know.
Sure, the gas pedal, the brake pedal, two of the same pedal. They do the exact same thing. I got nothing else for this scene either, so I'm ready to go on to the scene five. Oh, and I love this. I love this because we get the aftermath. We get the
Okay.
repercussions of Eddie and what he did.
You answered something for me, just scene related, because I was like, is this technically a scene or just a fade out? So I was like, okay, this is a thing. Um, I'm just gonna tell you right now, this is my favorite scene.
It is. This is where my dessert is, and I think you know what my dessert is in this scene. Now, first of all, the fact that we start off the scene with Eddie thinking that wiping the windshield would kind of like lighten the damage a little bit. He's like, oh, okay. Like there's some debris and whatever on the window. Maybe I should just wipe it down and then maybe that'll soften the blow.
He screamed when he wiped the mirror, the window. I just screamed. I'm like, what is he doing? And I could not stop laughing.
Yeah. And Laura coming down the stairs. Eddie, are you okay? I didn't think that was the appropriate response. If I were in Laura's position, I'd come down. My first thought is, what the fuck just happened here? I don't
Okay,
care about your safety. I just want to know what the fuck just happened to the living room.
I can see that reaction. Mine was gonna be to pull a Judy and go right back upstairs. Like I am not involved.
Because you already know how Carl's going to react.
Yes, as soon as I would have seen that, my brother, I would have been like, "Oh, you are on your own. Don't ask me anything."
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's going to be a part of my main course, the whole Steve taking the fall thing. Speaking of Steve, I found it very funny. Remember when he tries to act like the outraged parent? He has his fist to his hips, kind of like Siamese king and I style. All righty, now how on Sam Hill did this happen here?
Oh my God. I thought it was funny. Steve made this scene in multiple ways, but I was so scared when that car came in where everybody was at. Because I'm like, what happened to Laura? Where are the kids? And then I'm like, okay, Laura's upstairs. And then Steve was off to the side. So that whole scene of the car coming in scared me, but then I was like, okay, everybody's fine.
Thank God, everybody's fine, especially Eddie, so he can be killed by Carl. I would love to see that. I didn't know that Sam Hill, like what in the Sam Hill, I didn't know that was a euphemism for hell. That's what I found out by looking up online.
Wait, what?
Yeah, yeah. When Steve says, "What in the Sam Hill has happened here?" Sam Hill is another way of saying hell. It's clearly a family-friendly version of saying hell.
Wow. Okay, so this whole time I thought people were just saying the Sam Hell.
No,
I didn't
yeah,
realize they were saying Hill. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
God. And Jolene, if you remember Jolene in this scene, she like kind of brings it back to the bread truck theme when she was explaining the accident. Like, oh, we were just passing by this bread truck. I mean, the irony, Eddie was afraid that he was going to hit a bunch of bread trucks. And then I guess reality just put that on him. He ends up actually doing it.
yeah, I have the bread truck. You say you're gonna hit a bread truck, you're gonna hit a bread truck at some point in your life. And we get it happening. And Jolene, the actress who played her, I'm sorry, I forgot her name. She did so well with that escape of like, well, I'm gonna tell you guys what happened, and then I'm leaving because I know I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yep, yep. No, she was all like, oh, Eddie, you're a big man. Let's go for a ride. And then once she realizes what that ended up as, she just doesn't want any responsibility in it.
Jolene was very smart. She knew what to do. I feel like they just went and got a slushie or something. And she was like, oh, I got my drink. You have craziness. Let me go ahead and leave. And she's going to the next guy.
I think they were going for a coffee because I remember like within her explanation, she was like, "Oh, next thing I know, we're side swiping a coffee table." And again, can I just stress that um, if you read the driving manual, it says nothing about driving into buildings. Why are we still driving? Like it seemed like they drove into another building on the way to the Winslow house, which is another building. Like what is going on?
I mean, no, they didn't.
I mean, okay, maybe they drove into like an outdoor French cafe, maybe, but like still, you're driving into tables and buildings, not straight on a road like normal people.
I think she was talking about driving into the Winslow's house when she said that. I don't think they were on a crashing spree.
Oh, that too. They do have a coffee table. I was just so angry. I was like, what is going on? You guys decide to crash a cafe on the way to crashing the Winslow house?
I love that you were like, look, I'm upset that they caused multiple places of damage. You were ready to fight for the town.
Seriously, they're like the car crash version of people who commit arson on houses. That makes
Okay, I'm not laughing at the arson. Oh, jeez.
Oh, arson is hilarious. I don't know why you wouldn't laugh at that. God. And then when Eddie says, oh, Dad is gonna kill me when he sees this. I'm dead meat. I was like, no, no shit, Einstein. You think?
Eddie knew he was dead, and like I felt the anxiety building in my own chest because of having the experience of crashing my parents' car. So I was like, oh, Eddie's about to be in so much trouble. Now, thank goodness I didn't do that much damage, but we get Carl coming into the scene after Eddie's like, he's gonna kill me. And this is my just gem. This is the favorite part of the episode for me when Carl comes in, his reaction to this damn car.
Oh
What
yeah.
did you think of it?
Oh, it's my dessert. That's my exact dessert. I think before that, Steve was like, "Oh, now Eddie, you had an accident. Carl will understand. You just had an accident." And an accident is a little fender bender onto somebody else's car on the road. Driving the car into the living room, that is just a shit show that is waiting for a spanking. Carl should have gave him a spanking like right there on Family Matters television for everybody to see. A good old fashioned black father spanking. I would have loved to see that.
I cannot agree. I do not want to see a spanking. I feel like Carl should have came in with boxing gloves and be like, okay, we are here to fight at this point because you destroyed my living room. But Eddie, you also destroyed the pink chair. So good job.
Oh, did he? Oh my God. Are
He
we going to
did.
see the pink chair anymore after this because of the accident?
I don't know, but the pink chair was under the rubble. So fingers crossed we might not see it anymore.
Jesus Christ. If it had to take the living room being destroyed by a car accident for that pink chair to be gone, that's a lot. That is a lot. But yeah, Carl's reaction is everything. I mean, you see him come in, he has the shock scream like and his face, and he's just just seeing everything in disbelief. Reginald knows how to play that comedically so well. I laughed out loud multiple times in just that moment because it was just great. It had to be my dessert. I think it might be one of my desserts or my only one. But I knew going through this episode before I finished it, that was going to be a dessert for me because nothing is more solid than when Reginald as Carl is caught in a situation like this where the shit is really hitting the fan and he just doesn't know how to process it.
Yes. My dessert is when Carl says, Harriet, there's a car in the living room.
Yeah.
That line 3 times in a row. The first time I like giggled. The second time I open mouth laughing. The third time when Carl screams, Harriet, there's a car in the living room, I lost it. I was crying laughing because it was so hilarious.
It really was. And speaking of Harriet, again, on top of the paint fence thing being abnormal for her, did you think it was abnormal for her to just be like, oh, Carl, just calm down. Don't overreact. I was with Carl. I'm like, Harriet, there's a fucking car in the living room. Of course he's going to lose his shit. Why aren't you losing your shit? Because Harriet is what? I mean, I would like to think that she's cares about the decor, the maintenance of her living room. But in this moment, she's just like, Carl, you're being a crazy person. No, he's not. There's a car in his living room.
Harriet was about to kill somebody over a butter dish. She literally was going to kill somebody. She had to be physically held back because that butter dish made the difference. The house, she's like, okay, it's okay. Now, I am with Carl here because that's the equivalent of somebody telling me to calm down when I'm upset. So I'm just going to scream the same thing at you again until you shut up and learn that I have the right to be mad. So I didn't get it.
Yeah, your money was just taken away from you. Calm down. Don't overreact. You'll be fine. Your house was just taken away from you. Oh, calm down. Like, God, it just didn't make sense how Harriet was reacting to this. And Rachel, her line of, well, at least we know where the car is. Like, I was like, Rachel, you should be the last one talking.
I love Rachel's messiness. Rachel was so messy, and she's just like, "Oh, I'm just gonna be passive aggressive here."
Rachel. Um, yeah, I was outraged when Steve took the fall for Eddie, because that's my main course. I think that if it's someone you care about, there are certain things that make sense to take the fall for, and then there are things that are just absolutely like, no, you should let the person actually responsible deal with that themselves. How the fuck is this little kid Steve going to cover the cost of repairing this entire living room?
You know what? You give me a different perspective. I was upset at Steve taking the rap, but for a different reason.
Oh, what was
Because
that?
I saw it as Steve being manipulative to a situation to get something to hold over on Eddie.
Oh yeah, like to get friendship from Eddie. He was bribing. Yeah.
Yeah, like immediately I was like, wait, what? Like that's where I was like, why did we have to go here in this story? Like I don't feel like it needed that of, oh, Steve takes the rap for him. Why? Why would Steve do this? Steve is very intelligent. He knows that this is a problem that's massive that can't be fixed with an I do that. So it
Yeah.
didn't make sense to me on this one.
Yeah. Oh God. And then what happens next with Steve? This is so Carl, when he's led to believe that Steve is the one responsible, again, Reginald in his freak out mode, he has that forced, still clearly angry smile that he gives when he tries to keep it together, but he's still losing his shit. He's like, why? Why did you do this, Steve? Love that line. Um, and I guess Steve starts off with this little dominatrix flavor with this line. I don't know. I guess I'm just bad. Like, remember when he turns his back to Carl? Like, he faces his butt to Carl. Like, I don't know why he delivered the line that way, but he did. And then we just take it to another level, like him just owning this lie that he's the one responsible for the car, bad to the bone. I'm laughing. The audience is laughing because he's doing all this hip thrusting as he's mentioning how bad to the bone he is. But at the same time, I'm wondering what the fuck is going on. How do we get here?
I thought it was perfect. It was gold on a plate. That portion, Steve in that moment is actually one of my desserts. Steve finally made it to my dessert.
Yeah.
Because, and I wrote in my notes here, this is the first time we've gotten Steve. Like, I feel like leading up to this, we've only gotten the workshop Steve. We're building this character. We're learning who he is. When he turned around and said, I'm bad to the bone, and did that walk with the hip thrust, I was like, oh my God, this is so good.
I mean, only Steve Urkel can make me laugh, but also make me think like this is not making much sense to me right now. I'm laughing, but it's like, how do we go from this situation with Eddie to Steve just, doing his little, I don't know, whatever the fuck he was doing, his little Bobby Brown moves. Oh God. No, he just quickly owned it. And maybe that is to your point of like Steve is being manipulative. Like maybe he's fully aware that he's bribing Eddie and he's just because I think if he wasn't in this whole bribery thing that he would probably be stuck in this sort of nervous thing of like, okay, I'm guessing I'm taking the fall for Eddie and we'll just see what happens here. But no, he just went from taking the fall for Eddie to just being like, yeah, I'm bad.
I mean, it's not a far stretch because of everything that happens in this for me to think that Carl would think that Steve would do this. Because after we get Steve taking the rap and Carl, one, walking over to Steve with this, like, I'm going to choke you look in his face and his hand,
Yeah.
I thought it was just brilliant. I screamed. But Steve is like, okay, well, you're probably going to call my dad And if you call home and somebody picks up but nobody answers, my dad is being a mime this week. It's just like, don't be surprised. So I think this like leads us to like a whole new world of Steve, where it's like, okay, so your parents wouldn't care about you crashing a car into a house. You're not upset about that. You're just concerned that your dad won't speak on the phone, so nobody thinks that he's home.
Yeah, I don't know. What I thought of it was like, oh, okay, so your dad doesn't have the care in the world to be a good parent to you, but he has all the time to be a pantomime at home. That's what I was thinking. Um, oh, did you remember the line from Harriet? I think this was directly after Steve was doing his whole Bat for the Bone monologue that made no sense. Harriet was like, "Come again?" And Steve was like, "Huh, thanks. I didn't think you'd invite me after this." I was like, "Oh, that's a really quick-witted line. I like that."
It really was. Steve, we got Steve Urkel. Like every moment here, it was on point. Give this scene an Emmy. Is that good?
It really is. And if you notice, when Reginald was about to choke Jaleel, did you see the sweat? He was sweating his ass off. He's working these scenes.
They have Carl doing mileage out here. He's working these scenes. The physical humor is just getting better and better. I love every moment of it.
Yeah, and then eventually we get Steve going into the kitchen on the run from Carl on his way out the back porch door. Eddie stops him to ask why did he take the fall. Steve is saying that Carl was coming real close to turning him into a human Krakatoa. I had no idea what Krakatoa meant. How about you?
It's a volcano. It just killed, I think, like millions of people. A little cute one.
I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of it. Yeah, apparently it's a volcanic island in Indonesia. So I'm sorry to all the millions of people that were killed by the Krakatoa, and now they've been reduced to a Family Matters joke.
It's okay. They're literal ashes at this point. It was go a long time ago. But it did make like a good amount of sense because Carl was blowing up in there.
He was. This is the definitely the peak that I've seen his temper be at. Like I've never seen him lose his shit as much as he did in this episode. So Steve accepts the fact that he may be grounded. He's cut off from allowance. He mentions that his bagpipe recital could be canceled. I was really hoping when he was going on that whole thing that he would say, maybe my anchovy paste diet would be cut off and I wouldn't be able to eat anything anymore.
No more rats for you, Steve. You're not eating them.
Yeah, no, 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 no. And then I think Steve assures Eddie that like they're buddies. Buddies help each other out, and he puts Eddie to the test. He asks Eddie like, "You do the same for me, right?" And before even like there was any hesitation from Eddie, I knew it was gonna be a no, and logically so. It should be a no because you drove a car through a living room. Like, okay, I'll give you an example. Andrew, I love you. Like, I'll do a lot of things for you, but if you drove a car through somebody else's living room, fuck you. You're on your own. Like, I'm not like that. That is on you. And you know as well as I do, adulting be expensive these days. I got no money to cover that.
Very true. I'm sorry. I'm not taking a rap for somebody taking an extra straw from Arby's. No, put that back. That's exactly what you're gonna hear me say because I've done my crazy shit day.
Yeah, yeah. I just, you're on your own. You're on your own is what I say when it comes to serious things like that. And then I think there's like another term that this scene uses, or the show overall uses in this particular scene, when Steve, I guess he tries to put on this whole sympathetic thing. He says goodbye to Laura. He's like, farewell, my Bonnie lass. I never knew what Bonnie lass meant until I looked it up. Apparently, it's a term used to describe a beautiful young woman.
Oh, I thought it was just a name. Okay, fine.
I thought it was like some musical artist, but no, it's these writers are just throwing away terms that I think even the kids on the show are just like, what? What?
I really feel like that's way above anybody's age group who would be watching. So
Yeah. Anyway, I'm anything else you have for this scene?
no, nothing for this scene. I feel like we got like a good little wrap up there because the lead into the next scene was still funny for me, but in a different way. Because we start off with Judy and Richie eating in the living room.
I was happy to see them, by the way. I was like, hey, you two, you're adorable. We don't see you as much.
I saw it and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then we get Judy's only line in the episode. And it's to ask if Richie and her have something to drink, and she's gonna go get another drink for Richie.
That should win an Emmy too. That was bravo the way she delivered that line. Look, I loved her bright blue goody two shoes, blue church girl dress. Again, Judy is just excelling with the black church girl look. She has like the blue ball barrettes on her doo-doo braids to kind of match with the blue dress. Literally, she looked like my sister did back in the day. It's just insane how Judy represents every little black girl from olden times.
Immediately when I saw her, I was like, she looks like a little black girl that you see in the family photo album at some church. And you're like, who is that? And they're like, that's your cousin, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh my God, she looks like a model. And that's exactly what Judy looked like.
Yeah. So her and Richie, they're watching TV. Judy, I think, she's gonna go off and get like drinks for them. They have their burgers. What did you think about the Winslows deciding that it would be a good idea to put curtains up to replace the door that is no longer there in the living room?
I feel like the studio design is trying to give us a broke black family where they're like, oh, they're not rich enough to go stay at a hotel because hotels, you had to like sign a contract back then to get a hotel room. It's crazy. So I'm like, okay, maybe they're just like, yeah, we don't have enough money to get out of the house, but it's summer. Just throw some curtains over it.
They clearly don't care about security because, as you can tell, some strange dog could just easily stroll in and steal Judy's burger and then just walk out. By the way, did you notice that when the dog walked out of the curtain, you saw a little view of a backstage area? It wasn't an actual outside view of the Winslow house. It was, oh, okay, I think we see some lighting equipment. Like, what the fuck is going on there?
I rewound it so many times. I was like, is that the backstage? And I'm like, that's the backstage.
Yeah, yeah. They didn't care for that split second moment. I mean, I think when Steve eventually enters, you see like, oh, okay, maybe there's like a little bit of a nighttime view exterior. But when that dog ran out for that split second, they were just like, fuck it. Let's just give people a peek into the fourth wall.
Yeah, they did not care. They're like, the dog's cute. People will be distracted by the dog. I feel like they sent us a subliminal message here, and this is me reviving my Shadow Judy and Judy's replacement theory here. Did you notice that this dog ran in, only ate Judy's food, and left after Judy left the scene and never came back, and little Richie laughed about it?
That's a good point. Yeah, because Judy doesn't return at all after that. Huh.
Nope. Judy does not return. The dog didn't touch little Richie's food, even though it was right there. And I'm like, are they sending us a message here?
All you need to do to make Judy disappear, eat her burger.
That and send her upstairs. It's a wrap.
Dash off into the night with her food, and then poof, she is gone. I think it wasn't until this scene that I realized, like, it made sense when Laura was scolding Eddie for letting Steve take the blame. I totally forgot, like, oh, Eddie should have spoken up and said something, but he didn't.
Yeah, I had completely forgot about that little portion until we get Steve, who's coming in the scene with, is it Laura and Eddie together here? And Steve comes in the military outfit.
Yeah. Steve comes in his military school uniform. Not surprisingly, his abusive parents think that sending this poor child off to military school for an accident that wasn't his, and even if it was his, I don't know. I mean, do you think a living room car accident warrants somebody being sent off to essentially a boot camp for 4 years?
I don't think any child should be sent off to a boot camp school. I think they are very bad, and that's me standing on a soapbox. But even for Steve Urkel, this is no reason to send away a kid for an accident. Like, it's not like he like ran somebody over with the car and was like, did I do that? I'm trying not to laugh.
I mean, that would be a perfect response. No, I think that, you could probably send Steve to military school if he intentionally drove a car into the house trying to kill people or shoot up a school. Like, if he did something to intentionally harm someone or a group of people or whatever, sure. But an accident, and again, an accident that wasn't his fault, I just felt like that was a very dramatic step. Now, I looked up online because I was curious. I was like, he seems a little young to be attending military school. Now, for the most part, the minimum age is 17, but I do read that some schools allow kids as young as 7 in, which is kind of bizarre to me, but that's America.
They do. If you want more information about it, I got deep into it because Paris Hilton got sent away to one of these like facilities for kids. So if you want to know more about it, a good thing is to watch Teen Inc. It's just a documentary series that talks about these kinds of schools. And yeah, you could be as young as 7 and be sent to one of these things, but I don't think there's anything that a kid could do that's not illegal that I would want to send them to something to like that because you're not helping this kid if that's really what your goal is.
Right. And Steve somehow in the midst of this very unnecessary low point in his life, he still finds the silver lining. You remember his line? Perhaps 4 years of military school isn't a bad thing. Maybe I can pump up the old bod. And then he, physically flexes himself. So that shows you that this kid has resilience.
Yes, he's got resilience and he's like, okay, this is a vacation for my parents, so I'm ready to go.
Giving my parents a break from me, a break that they already have every single day since I'm already at someone else's house every single day.
Right.
Yay.
When they were in, did they go to Albuquerque or something and left him in the middle of like home? They've just never been around for their child. Herb and Diane, what are y'all doing?
They're going from Wisconsin to the Bahamas, anywhere but around the parameters of Chicago, Illinois. That's where Herb and Diane are gonna be. Um, Oh, so Steve, I think subconsciously was making Eddie feel guilty at a certain point by wanting him to keep the glove and baseball he would have used had Eddie made time for him to play catch together. In that moment, I wish Steve would have just outright said, you know what? Is now a good time to grow a backbone, motherfucker? Hello?
Yeah, no, Steve should have walked in there and be like, Eddie, fix this right now. I'm not going to military school. Like, he should have said that. That I would have respected so much more than this bullshit. Oh, I got this baseball mitt because we were going to play together. Did Eddie know you bought the baseball mitt? Don't put that responsibility on Eddie. That's not okay. That is love bombing somebody.
It's
And I'm like,
classic. It's classic passive aggressive black people guilt. It's like, rather than directly tell you what's wrong, I'm going to just put on my uniform, tell you about this baseball catch scenario that we could have had together. I'm going to leave. Okay, maybe you'll get the point by me getting out the door right now. Head in shame. No, just tell me to fess up. That's all you got to do.
yes, I hate when it is all something I've only dealt with older black people who do that. And I'm like, really? Okay, so here's the thing that you say. Closed mouths don't get fed. If there is an issue, open up your mouth and say what the issue is.
There
Because
you
I
go.
hate,
There you go. There you go. Black people learn. Sincerely to black people.
yeah,
Oh, God. All right. So Steve says goodbye to Laura. His line, classic. Love this. Poetry. I guess I'm just clogged with emotional cholesterol. Makes me think about constipation.
I thought about having a heart attack. I was like, oh my God.
Can you imagine having a heart attack and being constipated at the same time? Like, what would
Oh
happen
my
first?
God.
What would
Oh,
happen first?
what, like, yeah, like, oh my God. Oh, that's terrifying. Like, oh my God, imagine being stuck in the ambulance, having a heart attack, gasping for air, and you're like, fuck, I can't shift.
I would argue that the heart attack comes from the like overabundance of strength that you're trying to give your asshole to get that poop out. I would argue, yeah, that's what that's what causes the heart attack. You push, push, push so much that somehow you cause your heart to explode, and that is how you go.
Oh,
How did he die? Well, he had a bunch of 2-week-old pasta and didn't wash it down with liquids. That's how he went. What a good way to go. And the worst part is when they do the autopsy shit and then you get naturally flushed out. Like, oh God, you don't even want to know how much will get flushed out.
I don't even want to know. Oh man, I didn't think of it that way. Okay, you almost took me out.
I know. I'm sorry. This is our most graphically inappropriate episode. I apologize. So Steve has a camouflage handkerchief that he blows into, and it reminded me that I wish that he had a camouflage uniform to match. I thought his uniform was like, bland navy blue, didn't really have a personality to it. I don't know about you. I like camouflage.
Um, I like camouflage because it reminds me of my dad.
Oh,
And so I like camouflage, and my mom too, because she would have her camos. But when I saw him pull out the camouflage handkerchief, immediately me, growing up in a military family, I was like, why is that camouflage? It should be navy, the same color of his jacket.
Yeah,
I was like, that doesn't make sense. And then I was like, okay, this is like a weird continuity error for me.
it is. Certainly it is. But Family Matters does it because the costume people don't know what the fuck they're doing. So they should all be constipated and die of a heart attack.
While fishing. Oh my God.
And I can say that because most of these people are all dead anyway.
You know what? Yes, that is very true. So thank you for giving us this good show, but there are some things that y'all need to work on.
hmm So Steve hands Laura his first baby shoes as a goodbye gift, and it's revealed to be pretty much the same size that Steve wears now. I don't know, I just find it funny. I was like, wow, look at this kid with like the slowest growth spurt ever. He's in his like mid-teenage years. He looks like he could be 8, but yet giant feet.
The shoes are what sent me. I was like, these are the like oldest orthopedic looking shoes I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Anything else you have for this scene?
So the only other thing that I had for this scene is that I did like that Laura was in a scene, kind of just there, not as a, how do you say it? Not like as like a stand-in, but she was kind of like this jumping off point where each person did kind of reference, look at, or talk to her, and she responded back with just facial gestures and expressions that kind of made it more, let's say, comfortable. Because I felt like this could have been a really cringy scene.
Can you give me an example?
Example would be she's sitting on the couch as Steve is about to offer her the baby shoes, and she doesn't say anything. She just makes this facial expression that makes you kind of giggle, but at the same time, we're feeling sad because Steve is going to be leaving.
So you're saying that Laura should have been given more to work with?
No, she did amazing.
Oh, okay.
Laura's facial expression tied it all in together. It was like, okay, we're not just getting lines delivered here. We've got a silent actor here who's making it more comfortable for this very uncomfortable situation.
Okay. Got it. Anything else?
That was it for me in the scene here because I thought this was all one big scene.
Yeah, there's a random abrupt fade out going into scene 7. Again, leave it to Family Matters to not know how to close scenes out properly. So I think this is where we go to the garage. And is this what, the second heart-to-heart talk that Carl and Eddie have in the garage? Because I think the first heart-to-heart that they had was the season 1 finale.
It was the season 1 finale in the garage was the last time they were in the garage together. This is like family sitcom trope. The dad and son always have some heart to heart in the garage. It can't be any other place in the house. It's like the garage is where the serious talk happens.
I know where they're going with this. The only place where men can talk is the man cave. That's where they can convene.
This is the cleanest man cave I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's not dirty. It needs to be more rusty and filled with all these tools that don't make sense on the floor.
Yes, like the ball carburetor or whatever. I don't think that's the tool, but that's what I imagine when I walk into a garage.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm walking into a garage and I'm like, oh, is that the wrench Stubulator 3000? That's the tune up the car carburetor thingy, McJiggy, right?
You're just like me. I'm like, set it and forget it. We did it.
Yeah, that fixes the football tube and the hosing liquid, right?
The go pedal, is that what that fixes?
Right.
Oh.
That's the funniest thing. How to pretend that you're a real man.
You know, sitcoms, they give us this, and I do feel that we get a good like energy in this one. So like look at it, just when Carl starts to talk with Eddie, well, Eddie starts to talk with Carl to admit the truth. I love that Carl didn't immediately give us a comedic moment. He just kind of kept his face very somber, just like, oh, I'm listening. And then when he walks and closes the door behind Eddie, I'm like, oh, Eddie's about to get his shit.
Yeah, when Carl closed the door, it made me think like, is he gonna set the garage on fire? Is he gonna give Eddie the spanking that he deserves? Like, what is going on? Why can't you keep the door open, Carl? Like, what kind of abuse is happening here? Oh God, it was funny. It was funny. Um, At first, when he was blowing up the balloon for little Richie, that didn't make sense to me because there was no context. It was like, oh, is it for his birthday? Is it for like what is it for? Like why are we just saying that we're blowing up a balloon for little Richie? Have purpose in your actions. That's what I learned in acting, Andrew. Uh, and then Eddie, when he reveals that it was him who caused the car accident, remember when Carl immediately let the balloon deflate? Like that timing was just so funny.
I was hoping he was going to squeeze it in. It would have. That's all I wanted. That.
That would have scared me. I like the deflating because it was just simply for laughs. But you give me a balloon popping sound like that, I mean, it'll make me jump like there's a gunshot.
You know what? Everybody's different when they respond to balloons, and I get it. Because I don't like the sound of popping, but the physical act of seeing it, I'd feel like, yes, give me more.
Yeah, just imagine like having that traumatic response. No, no, don't shoot. And meanwhile, it's just 8-year-old Jolene just popping balloons for fun.
Fuck you, Jolie.
Wait, why is Jolene 8 years old all of a sudden? I'm sorry. I should have just said like Jacinda or something like that. But no, I just turned Jolene from a teenage girlfriend of Eddie's to an 8-year-old.
You know what? We needed her in context, and you use Steve's time machine that we'll be getting very soon.
Not get me started on that again. Do not get me started on that again. Oh God. So Eddie admits he lied about passing the test to impress Jolene, and now he's lost both her respect and his father's. And then Carl is like in disbelief of what he's hearing, and he's like, Edward, 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 Edward Arthur James Winslow. I was like, do we need two middle names for a child? I don't think we do.
I don't think we do, but I mean, when he said it all, I was like, oh, that's a black name.
Is it a black thing to have two middle names?
I don't think it's a black name to have two middle names, but all of those names together, that was a black name. Like, you sound like a protester.
A good one or a bad one?
I'm going to say a good one because good people protest.
Hmm.
I don't know if you can be a bad protester. That just means you're a loser.
Yeah, yeah. So Carl eventually admits that he should not have given Eddie the last minute test, which I actually disagree with. I think that that's warranted, especially in this day and age where we're not doing the permit or the written test. Like, no, give a last minute surefire test. It's just the way Carl handled it. That was terrible. So going off of that, I'm glad that Carl admitted that he had a role in making Eddie unnecessarily nervous.
100% agree. I 100% agree. I agree. A final test is one thing, and I do like that Carl took responsibility that he overstepped that boundary. So I thought that was a really good moment where it's like, hey, I'm wrong. So I'm not going to just go off for no reason.
Now, let's just have Carl follow through and actually learn his lesson rather than what he used to do in the first season, which was like, yeah, I'm not going to put pressure on you, and then I'm going to put pressure on you in the next episode.
Yeah, I can see Carl literally next episode being like, I'm about to pressure the crap out of you and you're going to be okay with it. And then we're going to talk about how I learned about pressuring you. And then 2 episodes after that, he's going to do it again.
Oh, way to go, Carl, as Estelle would say, which, Estelle, she had a minimal appearance in this episode. Like, she didn't really do much. I remember, wait a minute, or am I confusing her in
I
another?
don't remember her at all in this episode.
Never mind. Yeah, because I was watching Family Matters episodes that related to a guest that we interviewed today, Gary Goodrich. No, I don't think Mama Winslow was in this one too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Never mind. Never mind. So Carl is listing Eddie's punishment, and amongst it, he was like, oh, you're gonna have like unlimited house chores, and you're gonna be charged, or you'll be given like $4 an hour, and I think it was eventually $4.10 an hour. And damn, Andrew, I think that's a waiter salary without the tips.
Yeah, that's a waiter salary without a tip. That is nothing. But I didn't understand why Carl was doing that either. Because in this scenario, I've been like, Eddie, you have a job. When you get paid, you owe me 40% of your paycheck.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just someone like that, like, what?
Yeah. Anything else from that garage moment with Carl and Eddie?
No, not actually. I don't think there was anything else that stuck out in it. My notes, I don't have anything for that. No, because once we get back, we have something I delved into.
Yeah. Is this when we get back into the living room where Steve is continuing his goodbye gifts with Laura?
Yes. The goodbye gifts are disgusting, and I didn't know this. Catfish jam. Did you see the jar of it?
I did, and I don't want to see it again.
It's a real thing, you know that?
Mm. Why? Why? I thought it was something that the Urkels just made up. What culture has that?
And so I didn't look at the full details of the culture as far as where it was originated from, but it is a true thing that people make jellies and jams out of fish, especially catfish, and enjoy it on top of crackers.
Well, those people are heathens. That's what I call them. They are heathens. Um, so I believe the list of goodbye gifts that Steve gives to Laura, we mentioned it, catfish jam, homemade from his mom.
Mhm.
And then no, wait. I think the order was like Steve, he brings about the catfish jam, and then it was Laura who responds with, "Oh, gee, Steve, your baby shoes, your grandmother's dentures, and fish jam, and I didn't get a thing for you." And I was like to Laura, I was talking to Laura through the screen. Nor do you have to. Here's the great thing about being stalked by somebody: your presence. That's the gift. That is it. You can just stop there. You don't have to. I mean, you could give Steve's toenail clip. Well, no, you could give your toenail clippings to Steve, but even if you didn't, he's gonna still love you anyway.
So I think you finally understand, John, what I would love in this scenario of comedy to have a stalker. I am the gift. I don't have to do anything. I'm the gift. You
Yeah.
got me.
Yep. Yep. If there's a way to be safely stalked and you could, I don't know, pay my bills, send me on vacation, all expenses paid. Hey, follow me. Here's a little picture of my hairy ass.
Uh,
I'll give you a little ass cheek if you pay my way to vacation and whatnot. I mean, you know,
Look, that sounds like a good deal. I'm not going to fight you on that one. A little cheek and a rest of my life is comfortable. Thank you.
yeah. But that's it though. That's it. A little ass cheek. Nothing more, nothing less.
Okay, see, we know the occupations out here. I really like what we just came up with.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I think Eddie comes back into this scene, right? He comes back to the living room and he confirms to Steve that he told his dad the truth and takes Steve up on playing catch. And it was a sweet moment that had to be ruined by Steve throwing the ball at the lamp. And automatically, wow, it's like Carl has this reflex. What? Like you hear him screaming from the garage, like, what happened? Um, and I thought the sweet moment actually returns when Eddie actually returns the favor and says, "Oh, Dad, don't worry, it was me." And there you go. That's our episode.
So I didn't think that it was okay that Eddie took the blame for this one.
But Steve took the blame for him. That makes sense. No, I mean, like it was a reciprocate thing for Eddie to remind Steve, like, hey, like just like you had my back with the car, I have your back with this lamp. Don't worry, I'll take the fall. You took enough of the fall for me. That's what I
Mm-mm.
thought. They're
No,
happy.
I can't. I can't get into that, and the only reason why I can't, Eddie, you have just had to learn a lesson about taking responsibility for the actions that you have made. So literally less than a minute later, you're doing the exact opposite that you just had to have a whole freaking conversation about. Doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, it just kind of snowball. Yes, it's gonna be, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't know. I found it sweet. Like, Eddie realized what the sacrifice Steve made, and he was like, all right, you gave me one, I'll give you one. And then we'll stop lying for good.
I thought the sweet moment for the ending was Steve breaking the lamp. I laughed so hysterically when he threw that ball and hit the lamp, and it could have ended right there with Carl screaming. Nobody had to take the responsibility for it. Just Carl's scream would have summed up that whole scene.
You know what? I agree. I agree. Anything where Reginald is freaking out comically, that ends that finishes me off in quite a way. That is that is of course clean. Anything else for this episode?
No, that is the end of the episode for me. This was good.
Loved it. I agree. Now, before we get into our delicious stars, can you just review as to what that is?
Okay, so let's talk about the rating system. We got 0 to 3. Zero is going to be the lowest amount of stars that you can give an episode. If you give it a 0, that means don't watch it. This episode really is not worth the time or the space. A 1 star is a very good episode in its respective season. So it may not be the best, it may not be the worst, but out of this season that we're at so far, it at least 4 to 1. 2 is it's an excellent episode. It's worth taking the time to watch. You enjoyed it, you had some fun. And 3 stars, it's an exceptional episode encompassing everything we love about the show and worth a special journey to experience.
And your star?
My stars are that I'm on the fence still. I
What?
am actually still on the fence because this episode was going to get a 3 star rating for me. I loved it that much. But kind of after discussing it and thinking about this over again, I'm going to give this a 2 star.
Now, what made you go from a 3 to a 2?
What made me go from a 3 to a 2 is that I realized I didn't really see much of Harriet that actually sticks out to me. I don't remember much of Rachel that sticks out to me. The things that I remember the most came from Carl and Eddie, and everything else that I really enjoyed, I got to talk about and relive them, but they weren't staples. So I can't make it a 3.
Interesting. Harriet and Rachel didn't make much of a difference for me this episode. I was fine with that. Yes, I have my issue with where the writers are going with Jolene. This whole on and off again, mood swingy girlfriend. I'm not in love with that. But not enough for me to affect my enjoyment of the episode. Eddie's shoulder pads, yes, a horrid sight to see, just my opinion, but nothing for me to affect my opinion of the episode. I'm going to give this one a solid 3 stars. I thought that the car crashing through the living room, although absurd and wow, brings about more questions than answers. If it led to excellent comedic moments from Carl and Steve, and eventually a very sweet moment at the end from Eddie and Steve, it was totally worth it. I just think that this is one of those episodes where I can watch again, maybe not from like beginning to end, but I can certainly pinpoint moments like Carl freaking out when he first sees the Carl through the living room. That is a classic. I can watch that over and over, laugh my ass off. This episode was solid. I think this was solid, comedic, and sentimental gold. This is what I look for in Family Matters. And I know for a fact that we're going to get this consistently from now till season 9. Not a doubt in my mind.
Consistently, yeah. It's gonna happen.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I just want everybody who's listening, who watches, to remind us of this episode's ending when we get to the gun episode.
What is the gun episode?
The gun episode is when Maxine, I think, gets shot. And I don't know what season it's in, but the gun episode, when we get there, just tell me what I just need to know. Do you think it was as good as what we experienced today?
I don't remember that, but I also remember that. I'm kind of in between. I definitely need to jog my memory by seeing that episode again. All right. I got you. Well, dear Delici listener, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Delicious Recap. You can find us online, listen, subscribe, follow, rate, review us wherever you get podcasts. Just search The Delicious Recap, thedeliciousrecap@gmail.com for all your questions, comments, concerns, and feedback. I'll make it easy for you as far as how to follow us. So as of now, or as of when we're recording this on Monday, August 12th, you can follow us on Instagram, Threads, Reddit, and TikTok, all at Delicious Recap. We're on YouTube at The Delicious Recap. As you mentioned, Andrew, subscribing to us through there is really important. Thank you for doing that. And please, we invite you to join our Patreon benefits for just $5 a month, early episode access, and behind-the-scenes conversations. As you are hearing this episode sometime in October, you should have those benefits. Patreon.com/The Delicious Recap. You want to say, fuck this noise, I don't want to wait till everybody else here's the episode. I want to be special and listen to it early, and also figure out what the hell these guys talk about behind the scenes, unfiltered, as if we already not are unfiltered, but we're going to even be more unfiltered. Patreon.com/The the delicious or slash delicious recap. I'm sorry, patreon.com/delicious recap. There's also a community chat access there where you have the ability to chat with us, like DM us, about whatever. Everything but unsolicited dick pics is welcome.
Yes, please don't send any. Just don't do it, okay? I
Yes.
will, however, take an unsolicited dog pic. Like, if you got a cute dog, send a picture of your dog.
We'll never say no to that. I mean, I have 4 dogs, 2 cats here. Send your cute animals. We would love it. Andrew, how can people follow your DoorDash uncling adventures?
You can only follow me on TikTok now. It's official. So TikTok is where you find me. Just Vandertunt is what you have to type in. Vandertunt. I'm the only one in existence. And I'm thinking of copywriting the name because I found out it's not that hard. So just search for me there. You'll find me there. Interact with the podcast pages. You'll definitely be able to interact with me there. Sundays are my social media day. So Sundays are when I will respond to messages. So don't think I'm going to ignore you. Sunday is the day.
There you go. Our next episode, season 2, episode 6, Boxcar Blues. Ooh, sounds very jazzy.
It sounded like a hobo catching a train.
That too. A hobo catching a train in hot ass New Orleans, where the sexual tension is high.
Ooh, this sounds like a gay erotica novel. Hey.
Yeah, I was thinking like Streetcar Named Desire mixed with gay erotica. Yeah, yeah,
Ooh, ooh.
yeah.
Okay, there's a musical coming to your state near you.
Please, because I know the episode is going to be nothing like what we described. Would you mind closing us out in a way that describes our feelings about this episode?
This episode was a full meal. It was succinct. It was delicious. It's like getting bottle service at the club with the sparklers. The champagne comes out and it's delicious. So we'll let that deliciousness reign.